Hello, it's time for your weekly dose of Deep Drive, our podcast powered by Kotak Mahindra Prime. And on this week's episode, we're going to be talking about Kia, the Korean company that has been in the shadow of Hyundai, but now has a massive product offensive and wants to grow quite rapidly. So, what we're going to be talking about is the products that are coming out and Kia's future plans. I'm Hormazd Sorabjee.
I am Ketan Thakkar. Yes, Hormazd, I think after that little blip that we saw with Syros, what a phenomenal comeback with Seltos.
Yeah.
I could never imagine, given the fact that Tata Sierra was in the offing and that competition in that space is so intense. Seltos coming back, doing 10 to 12,000 units in the last 6 months. They've done more than 60,000 units. Phenomenal. Their average was somewhere around 7,500.
Yeah.
And what a phenomenal comeback that they've made. And I think now is the time when they actually bridge all the gaps which had impacted them between, say, 22 to 25. Surprisingly, during that time, Hormuz, the Indian market was going to the next level. Kia was unfortunately underperforming the market. And one was wondering, why is that happening? Somewhere it was product fatigue, somewhere it was powertrain gap, and all that is going to get fixed. And which is the most exciting part for us to discuss.
And I think at one point, they were working on just a two-shift operation in their Anandpur plant, whether to move to the third shift. They didn't know because that meant getting more people in,
That's
so they were a little caught in between.
Yes.
They were not sure if they moved to third shift, would they have the products for it?
Absolutely.
So I think there was a bit of a capacity cap also.
Right.
I think 20,000 units a month. I think
Yes.
that they're maxed out over there. But now, of course, I think it's all changed. And from what I understand, I think their target by 2030 is about 430,000 units.
That's right. That's right. That's
yeah.
I think, in fact, very interesting that you mentioned that, Hormuz. Actually, Syros not taking off had put spanner in the works with regards to capacity plan, because they had set up a separate line for it.
Yeah.
And there was question as to how is this capacity going to be addressed. They did very interesting interventions with Sonet, with bringing in automatic at accessible price point. We started seeing Sonet numbers moving up. Last financial year, Sonet did about 1,15,000 units.
Yeah,
really held in on.
It is a fantastic product, no doubt about it. Still, even you've got the new Venue, which is competitive and in many ways better. But I think Sonet still has a certain appeal about it. And, when it was launched initially with that diesel auto, the 1.5 diesel auto, it was just the best powertrain you could have, even better than the 1 liter turbo with the DCT, because it was more powerful. It was even refined, and torque converter really made a lot of sense, So I think as an overall car, it really worked well.
Now, I think the interventions that they did, I think sometimes some products can take you to the next level, but some products actually teach you a lesson. And that is what Syros story is all about. Syros actually taught them that when you overprice too much, then customer will actually discard you.
And I think at that time, then they start looking at the weaknesses also, which was the styling.
Yes.
Very polarizing, very oddball. I think if they had priced it competitively, people might have overlooked the styling.
I agree with you.
And just said, look, it's a great car. And frankly, when you're in it, you don't have to look at it. And interior, it's fantastic, very, very spacious. I also think the Indian customer, is very clever. He also felt he was not getting the value because they knew it was a sub 4 meter.
Absolutely.
And their feeling was, why am I not getting that sub 4 meter benefit passed on to me?
Absolutely.
Maruti did with the 1.5 Brezza, so why can't the Syros do it? So I think all these factors played on that. While as a product, it had a lot of content, quality, and, there was a certain cost to it. But from a consumer's point of view, they were not seeing the value. And I think they also do realize that a sub 4 meter car with the correct engine options, also which meet the sub 4 meter regulation, should be priced more competitively.
I agree, Hormazd. And I think it was straddling more in the Seltos territory rather than carving its own space between Sonet and Seltos. I think there was always this transition that was planned, that Seltos had to move up and they had to create space for Syros. But I think the timing and probably pricing and the way it was managed, I think
that's right.
I
think their logic was that, look, the interior space on a Syros is fantastic. It's closer to Seltos than to Sonet. The features are fantastic. Comfort is fantastic. So probably their thinking was, look, we're giving all this closer to Seltos, so we can price it closer to Seltos. But clearly, as I said, customers didn't see value in that.
Nah, it's phenomenal. So I think over a period of time, what they've done is they've taken Sonet to the next level. They fixed the pricing of Syros beginning of the calendar year, and surprisingly, for a while at least, for almost 6 to 8 months, they had stopped production of Syros. They've started production of Syros again. They're doing about 1,000 odd units, which is respectable given the fact that for a long period of time there was no production happening.
Now they've got the Syros EV.
They've got the Syros EV,
which again, from what I understand, hasn't flown off the shelves, but it's slowly getting traction.
I think they've fixed the value proposition right, and I remember you speaking during that GST cut era. At that point in time, one of the models that did very well was Syros. They
That's right.
corrected the positioning, and I think since then, I will say almost. I was surprised as to how swiftly they've made a comeback. Last financial year, the market grew by 8%. Kia grew by 13%, and the plan of Seltos was about 8,000 to 8,500.
That's right. I think they didn't expect this. And
the production, they are actually ramping up now. They are pushing vendors.
I think a big setback with fire at Mobis. I know a lot of people didn't get delivery, so I think that was a setback even to Honda as well.
Yes.
So I think that really was a challenge.
Indeed.
And that has maybe delayed some programs for some of them.
Right.
So I think, that is one thing which I think was an issue. So I think now with that behind them, I think you can see a clear runway for a lot more volume and sales.
I agree with you, Hormazd. In fact, this year, I think it's going to be a strong double-digit growth. In fact, at the beginning of the year, Atul Sood, the head of sales and marketing there at Kia, had said that, regardless of the market condition, Kia is going to go ahead and grow by double-digit. And clearly, it's backed by new products, and they are plugging the powertrain gap, which was a critical factor in their portfolio. And we are expecting a hell lot coming from Kia this year.
No, so I think let's get into the new products. The one I'm really excited about, Ketan, is the new Sorento.
Yes. Top of the line SUV.
Yeah, top of the line SUV. I think they are talking about 40,000 a year. That is a lot.
Yes.
So obviously they're confident of that. Is going to be very well priced.
Right.
What I hear is that the pricing is going to be between the 7XO and the Fortuner.
Interesting. That's going to be very aggressive.
That's aggressive. So let's say around the 31, 32 lakh mark.
Sweet spot, huh?
It's a pretty sweet spot. Yeah, I think it is. When you go above 30, honestly, you tend to fall off quite sharply.
Yeah.
But I think, look at the value proposition. Firstly, the powertrain strategy.
Yeah.
A strong hybrid.
Yes.
1.6 strong hybrid and a diesel. So they're not giving up diesel. Normally you find, I think it's a very unique case of a brand giving you a strong hybrid and a diesel. Normally the strong hybrid replaces the diesel. Everyone says the strong hybrid is the new diesel.
I agree.
But here they do realize that there is a market for diesel still, which a lot of brands don't realize that. And, in 2026 to come out with a diesel, that says a lot. It says your conviction in towards the powertrain, the diesel, what people want. It has shrunk, but still, I think, still a sizable share up in this segment over there. And I believe it is loaded to the gills. From what I understand, it's got, that digital rear view mirror. So with a camera based. So you've got a camera-based rear-view mirror, which, you've seen upmarket cars like Land Rovers. Then it's got, I think ventilated seats all round. I think they will be looking at a captain seat option also.
Right.
So, a full-size 7-seater. And if you look at it, it's going to make cars like the Volkswagen, Tayron and the Skoda Kodiaq, other 7-seaters, just look totally uncompetitive.
Absolutely.
They just have 1 2-liter petrol engine, and the car is a lot more expensive. And the features which the Sorento will offer are just going to be fantastic. It's got the space, everything. So clearly, that 40,000 units a month is an aggressive target.
Per annum, you mean?
40,000 units per annum. Per month would be a lot. We're not China yet. But 40,000 units per annum, very, very aggressive. And clearly, to achieve that figure, they're going to be giving a car which is phenomenal value.
I completely agree. And to me, the most exciting part is that 1.6-liter turbo hybrid. I think the first major hybrid coming in from a non-Japanese in
That's
the
right.
market. Let's see if JSW comes out with their hybrid shortly, but that's going to be plug-in hybrid.
That's
It's
right.
going to be a strong hybrid. So really looking forward to that. And what I was telling you about fixing the powertrain, I think they've got the EV with the Syros.
Yeah, that's
They
right.
also got the EV with the Clavis. So
That's
that
right.
started inching up on the numbers, I think.
Yeah, and I think they're riding this sudden uptick in EV demand.
Yes,
It's
absolutely.
come at the right time.
Absolutely.
So I think I don't know. I think even these new products are driving EV sales. It's a bit works both ways. Yeah.
So, trying to understand from the top management in the recent interviews as to why is it that Kia was losing share, and fixing the powertrain gap was one of the biggest factor that they mentioned. So, you're going to get a CNG on Carens.
That's right.
You're going to get a hybrid on Sorento. You're going to get a hybrid on Carnival.
That's right. Carnival is going to get a hybrid along with the diesel. They're not giving up the diesel as well. So I think a similar powertrain, Sorento and Carnival will have the similar powertrain.
Diesel as well as hybrid.
Diesel as well as hybrid. So yeah, they're really fixing a lot of gaps over there. And again, I think CNG, something which I think is really the new fuel everyone wants to jump into.
Absolutely. It took them a while. I mean, they were dabbling with the idea because there was always this notion whether CNG would pull down your aspirational quotient. But they realized that even with the personal buyers, there was that increasing acceptance.
That's right. It depends on what model you put CNG in. I mean, unlike Maruti, which has given it all the way up to the Victoris, I think they are being quite selective.
Yeah.
So obviously the Carens is the one, it's more a people mover, makes sense. I don't think they're giving it with the
SUVs.
with the Seltos or anything higher than that. So I think an interesting Ketan is that unlike Hyundai, and maybe this might limit their overall volumes, they have nothing below Sonet and they're not looking at anything below Sonet.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no extra equivalent yet.
Yes.
There's no hatchback yet.
Yes.
The way Hyundai has with the Neoses. So despite that, I think a real focus on SUVs itself.
Yeah.
And other than an MPV and SUV, there's nothing else. There's no sedans, obviously. So I think that's one advantage of having come late.
Yeah.
They've been able to see the trends, spot the trends, and decide which segments to go into.
Absolutely.
It's just been 2019 since they launched, so it's about 7 years. Very young company.
There's always been that temptation, Hormazd, talking to friends in the industry just before coming in here, and they had dabbled with the idea whether they could do a potential rebadge of an extra, but they realized that it doesn't match with the aspirational view that one has of the Kia brand.
And Kia has always tried to have that slightly sportier kind of positioning compared to Hyundai, which is a little bit more mass premium in that sense.
Right.
But they want to have that sporty kind of image.
That's right. And sometimes that's also polarizing, isn't it? I mean, we were discussing design aspect at Kia. I mean, Syros is one thing. I mean, Seltos has done well, but with regards to design, some people have had this thing that a little too butch,
That's right. Yeah, a little bit too in your face.
Too in your face.
I think today with SUVs, that's what people want. I mean, to be honest, even the Creta is, in terms of styling, can be polarizing. But look at Creta; it's still suddenly boom. After the capacity, the production issues have been sorted, or supply issues have been sorted. From 7,000 back up to 18,000.
Yeah, absolutely.
So clearly, I mean, it's quite strong. But I think, coming to the powertrains, I think that's also one big, let's say, advantage Kia has along with Hyundai. But I think one area where they've had issues is this whole IMT transmission, which I think Hyundai kind of got away from. And I have a feeling they've passed all that on to Kia, not really picked up really. Because IMT as a transmission is, neither here nor there.
Right.
And people haven't quite taken to it.
I agree with you.
And I think, people are now tilting and open to spending more to have a proper automatic rather than this halfway house of just no clutch and shaking. So I think, I think Kia is still pursuing with that. I think not out of its own choice. I think just sometimes, Big Brother has foisted this on them.
Sometimes group dynamics also play out, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's interesting that part of the same group, but they fight like cats and dogs.
It's insane. You were talking about powertrain, Hormazd. In fact, at the beginning of the year, at the Investor Day, the global CEO of Kia laid out a clear plan. And you mentioned that, 4.36, 4.1 is the domestic market plan. I mean, I was surprised to see the precision of market share target that they had. They had some 7 point... It's a very specific number. And I'm like, that's amazing. I mean, how can someone guide for give a guidance on a market share to the point? I think they've the global CEO had spoken of 7.6%. That's their target, which is going to be 52% higher than the previous peak of 2.7 lakh units. So what was amazing was that to the T, that they had a market share target. They've said that they want to do 4.1 lakh units, 800 sales and service outlets, and the most important thing that you mentioned on the powertrain front, 8 out of 10 models that Kia is going to be introducing beginning of 2026 are going to be electrified. That's the most important part. So we spoke of the hybrid that is coming up on Sorento, then Carnival. The biggest one, when Seltos was launched, everyone was asking, when is the hybrid coming? So hybrid on Seltos is lined up.
That's right. That's coming next year.
That's coming next
And
year.
I think you've got a next-gen Sonnet also coming.
Yes.
So 2027, the big ones are the Seltos Hybrid and the next-gen Sonnet.
Absolutely. And at that same investor call, the global CEO had mentioned that they are looking at a B SUV for the Indian market.
Right.
I'm trying to understand what exactly that B SUV is. People tell me that, Hormazd, there is a gap now created between the Syros and Seltos, which is now 4.4 meters long. That could be a potential area. Plus, they are also looking at somewhere between Sorento and Seltos.
Right.
Can that gap be bridged? Now, whether it is a SUV, MPV, crossover remains to be seen. Those are the two interesting gaps that they're going to be filling in. There's a conversation going on. And so I asked my friends, if there are going to be two models, clearly Kia would need more lines. And I understand from the ecosystem friends that potentially another line of 200,000 units is being explored, is being studied at this point in time.
Right.
They're yet to fill the existing capacity, but confidence is high. They're pretty clear about the numbers that they want to do, and they're bridging the gap with the CNG, with the hybrid.
That's right.
And plus the two models, like you mentioned, sharp focus on SUVs. So probably another SUV, a B SUV is already announced globally.
That's right. It's largely SUVs. I think the MPVs are basically the Karens and the Carnival.
Right.
They've been looking at SUVs. But I think, Ketan, coming to your point on that one gap between the Seltos and the Sorento, I think, Hyundai really couldn't crack it. But I think an Alcazar variant could be a possibility.
Yes.
But I don't know. I think, Hyundai haven't had too much success with the Alcazar. And it's very interesting that Hyundai gave up on the Tucson also.
Yes.
They didn't commit to it enough. Clearly, it was expensive. I mean, they had a petrol, they had a diesel. But I think the way Kia is going about it with the Sorento and getting it at that price point, because I think, once you start approaching the 40 lakh mark, sales become very, very marginal. I mean, the Indian market is like that. You literally start falling off a cliff. It's not a rapid decline in demand or sales once the price goes higher. It's a sharp drop off. Beyond that, you're in that kind of, let's say, zone where, it's really is a very, very, let's say, a lot more rarefied than the mass market, where the heart of the market is in the 25 now to 30 lakh SUV bracket.
Right. We often talk about choosing the right architectures. When I heard that the existing Sorento is called MQ4i. But they're working on MQ5i, which is going to go to the North American market. Now, India gets MQ4i, which is the existing generation. So I asked a question, as to why is it that India is not getting MQ5i? And again, choosing the right platform, it would have been over-engineered for India. It would have been expensive.
Exactly.
So they've chosen the right architecture in order to get the right price point, exactly what you're mentioning.
Yeah.
If they would have just souped it up a little bit more, I mean, for extra,
they'll probably get the tooling also along with it.
Yes,
I think it makes sense. So I think, at one point, you wanted absolutely the latest generation, but I think clearly, getting the latest products which are meant for, let's say, North American, European market, they carry too much cost.
Absolutely.
And that really makes them unviable for India. Costs which Indian customers don't value.
Absolutely.
What they value are the features, which you can pack in any case. Even on a one generation old platform, doesn't make a difference. As long as the E&E is up to spec, the electrical and electronic architecture.
That's the most important.
I think that is the key, more than the platform. Because very often the platform limitation is the E&E architecture.
That's right.
Because if you don't have that totally up to speed, all the features you want, the ADAS, all the gizmos on your infotainment, it doesn't have the firepower to run that on an older, E&E architecture.
Absolutely.
So I think sometimes they use an older platform, but they upgrade the E&E from the newer platform.
That's right.
And I think that's really the trick which a lot of people do. And possibly even with the Sorento, I think there's no stinting on equipment.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Indian Sorento has more equipment than, let's say, the European.
North America.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what Indians just love.
Absolutely.
So I think, I think they've realized the pulse of the Indian market, and honestly, I think both Hyundai and Kia, it's just amazing what they've done compared to what the Europeans are doing, or even some of the Japanese, bar Maruti. So I think here they've got that thing now. That Ketan, I think top four we know who they are.
Yeah.
Clearly, that's locked in. But for the number 5 position, it's a fight between Kia and Toyota. But I think Toyota, by having so many Suzuki models, batch Toyota, I think they always have an edge. But if you look at it, pure Toyota to pure Kia, I think Kia's way ahead. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I think with the Kia getting more hybrid powertrains in the more accessible part of the market, I think that's going to be critical. We know Hyrider has a strong hybrid, but I think Kia, with its brand equity in the market, I think they're going to leverage the powertrain strategy. I think one thing that was limiting them was powertrain, and we've seen the story of Tata Motors. I mean, Nexon with just petrol and diesel, it was a certain number. With EV, it went to the next level. And we've seen with every vehicle, when you have a diversified powertrain, the volume just significantly goes up. And clearly, Kia is going to leverage on that. What's exciting is that, Hormazd, that while Kia is coming out with their portfolio, Toyota is also coming out with its own range of models. So it's going to be an interesting race.
And pure Toyota products.
Pure Toyota models coming in from the Toyota side. So the good part is that the B and C segment of the market is going to see hell lot of action. And all those, entry SUV and mid SUV buyers will have so much of choice at the higher end of the market. And I think the litmus test is going to be, can brands sustain themselves above that 30 lakh rupees price point? I think Sorento will be an interesting answer for us in the coming 3 to 6 months, and we're going to see the rest of them also follow in the subsequent time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think clearly a lot happening with Kia. I think really it's still very much the younger brother for Hyundai, but unlikely to have the same volumes because it just doesn't have the same product portfolio and doesn't have the volume models Hyundai has. And of course, Hyundai has a stronger legacy. It's been in the market for now coming close to 30 years. And audit is 30 years. Kia just
6 years, 7 years.
7 years old, yeah. 2019. That's right. So coming 7 years old.
Less than a decade, 8 years.
Less than a decade, catching up. But I think really taken advantage of lessons learned from Hyundai, taken advantage from the fact that core powertrains are shared. That is really the key to both brands' success, because they've got such a wide variety of powertrains in every segment. And today, you see the big volume guys, you can't be fighting with just one kind of technology. It's got to be everything from EVs to hybrids to diesel, petrol, CNG, the works. So I think that's really where Kia is looking at expanding.
Interesting, Hormazd, that Kia was fastest to break even in India. Within a couple of years, they hit profitability. They broke into top 5 of the Indian competitive Indian passenger vehicle market, and they also broke into top 3 markets for Kia global. So clearly, in a market when we had seen exits from multinational players, here is this new brand coming in, capitalizing on its group might, leveraging the understanding of the Indian market to the hilt, and really, breaking into a mainstream brand, so to say. So it has been a phenomenal ride for Kia. But there's so much happening good for the brand. I also wanted to ask you, according to you, what would be the key challenges that you think Kia will face, given the fact that there's Mahindra, Tata operating in the B, C, D category, Maruti and Hyundai actually now making a strong comeback to the mainstream portfolio. You have your on the challenges?
So I think firstly I want to talk on, very interesting, you talked about them making money so fast. I think Kia, if you see them historically, they are paranoid about their financial position. It's very historic because they nearly went bust in the 90s.
Hyundai bailed them out, right?
And Hyundai bailed them out. So since then, they've really...
Profitability is the most important.
Their kind of approach to, fiscal discipline is something else very different from Hyundai, because, they've been scarred by what happened in the 90s and that's now embedded in their DNA. So I think really they do look at the bottom line much more sharply than others do. And I think challenges, I think clearly, if you ask me, more than Mahindra, Tata, the biggest challenge comes from within the family. Honda is not going to be standing still. I think
there's so much coming from Hyundai.
There's so much coming from Hyundai. And clearly, it's going to eat into, let's say, Kia's market share for
At
sure.
the end of the day, similar DNA.
Similar DNA, and I think, Hyundai can leverage many more of its strengths.
Yeah.
I think the other challenge really is they are not as well represented in the sub 4 meter space
Yeah.
as some of the others. And we've seen that has really grown.
That has made a comeback after GST cut.
Exactly. So that has made a comeback. A lot of people are going. If you see, Tata's actually grown over there. Maruti's grown over there.
Absolutely.
Were two companies that have really, kind of got volumes.
The last 6 months, Maruti's rise has been phenomenal.
Exactly. And if you see Tata Motors as well, they're probably, these are the two. Maruti, of course, number one, but then there's Tata Motors also, which has quite a slew of sub 4 meter products. So I think clearly that is a big gap that they still have. Very difficult to get into because that's, as Carlos Tavares said, a red ocean.
Yes.
Very hard to make money in there. And unless you've got, let's say, historic investments which are all written off, to put fresh investments into these products doesn't make sense, or into the segments rather doesn't make sense at all. So I think that's where really the competition is. But again, they are playing in the premium segment, and clearly, again, they will have competition from Mahindra. Mahindra again got a huge kind of plan in 2027 as well with their new NUIQ architecture.
Right.
So, I think there's competition all around. And clearly, I think others are not going to let Kia have it easy.
Yeah, I'm quite excited about the localized hybrid powertrain. And I think that's going to be critical in this day and age of E20 where fuel efficiency has been impacted. I think series of hybrids that are coming in, that is going to be a good edge for Kia going ahead.
But you talk about the localized hybrid, Ketan, but if you look at it, the hybrid battery cell,
it's still important.
It's still important. The ones who are going to be producing it locally is Maruti.
Yes.
With Toshiba.
Right.
So clearly, and again, talking about the other challenges is their battery strategy seems to be undone because I think the whole S-Volt Excite, plan has hit a bit of a roadblock.
Yes.
So they will be continuing to import their cells.
Right.
So I think, these are some of the challenges that there are.
Right.
And finally, it's all down to localization as much as possible.
Absolutely.
And I think even their cost structure, to be honest, is a little pricier than, let's say, rivals.
Right.
Because, even their diesel engine,
Yeah.
it's a very, very expensive diesel engine. This U2, what they call.
Yeah.
It's really built to European specs.
Right.
In fact, I remember telling one of the engines, why have you made it so expensive?
Yeah.
If you see just their injectors, everything, it's just a pricey engine.
Right.
So I think, they do have a bit of cost pressure as well. But I think overall, I think what's really going to drive their growth are a fantastic slew of products.
Absolutely. And I just hope the local R&D, which is getting spruced up significantly, will continue to offer them that cost advantage as more and more models portfolio go along. So there's a clear plan, 7.6% market share, 4.1 lakh units in the Indian market. There is a B SUV coming. There is a series of hybrid powertrains. Guys, exciting time, Hormazd, for Kia.
I think, it's going to be interesting times for this Korean brand. And I think, it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. But it looks like the next couple of months going to be very, very interesting for Kia. And with that, it's a wrap on this week's episode of Deep Drive. Do hope you enjoyed watching. And to make sure that you don't miss any of our episodes, do click on the bell icon to stay notified. And you can also catch us on our other podcast platforms on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Thanks for watching. See you again, same time next week.